talk starts. So take a seat, let's have a chat, table talk, where the real talk's at.
Greetings and salutations. I assume we're live.
We are live.
Okay, well, you didn't say anything, so.
Well, it went back just to show the misses, so I had to fix the layout. So it showed both
Oh
of
well,
us.
that
Right.
was lovely.
All of us. All three of us.
It's because I'm special.
Yes.
We'll go with that theory.
Yes.
I'm special, but it's more of a short bus time.
I was kind of hoping he wasn't going to go that route with me because, you know,
The steering wheel's missing. The door's missing. The wheels fell off.
one of my older brothers used to tell me all the time growing up that I was Helen Keller. So I was like, but is that necessarily an insult? I don't really think that's necessarily an insult because she accomplished quite a bit.
I mean, touche. Bless her heart.
Right. She's Southern. She knows what that means.
I do. Remember, you come home with me.
I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about Helen Keller.
Oh, well, I mean, no, she accomplished a lot.
She did.
So,
Really?
you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. She accomplished a lot.
Yes.
You do know who we're talking about, right?
I don't
Yes.
think he does.
I've seen pictures. I think I might have drawn on them.
It's possible.
Circles and squares.
Right.
Scribbled on them. Do you know who that is? No, it's a magazine.
That doesn't surprise me any. And I whispered that. I don't know why, but yeah,
Well, I mean, if he was coloring and not eating the crayons, I mean, it is an accomplishment.
that's true.
No, I was eating the glue.
Were you?
Gotcha.
And he wasn't wearing his helmet.
No,
You gotta wear your helmet.
I lost
know.
it. I lost my helmet. Somebody stole it. This is going to be an interesting night.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it always is when the three of us get together.
Well,
She acts like we're into some kind of shenanigans.
no. Wait, where are we at?
Right, meow. We are on episode 1 of our newest series, Psalms 23.
Yeah, if you've ever been with us for the most previous episodes, no, I do not have 7 minutes. Squirrel. Anyways,
Do you have fevers with those fits?
yes, I do.
Yeah.
My face will turn red here in a minute. We just finished James 3.
Keeping your tongue under control.
Yes, James 1, James 3, 1 and 3. We talked about 1 and 3, talking about how you control your tongue. Pursuit of truth, heavenly wisdom. It was convicting. It was challenging. It is honestly. It let a lot of us. Yeah, I mean, it was a good one for me for sure.
It kind of helped us see our own shortcomings. You know, we
Yes.
focus on other shortcomings a
Yes.
lot. You know, we're easy to point out, oh, look what you did. But, you know, this last series really helped us focus on ourselves and where we can improve.
Well, honestly, scripturally, you know, we are supposed to try to help others, you know, not just, how would you say, like meritly, you know, feed the hungry and so on and so forth. We're also supposed to try to help them out of sin,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and it is very easy to forget about our own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, matter of fact, I think a lot of times we deliberately ignore our own because let's face it is easier to worry about somebody else's problems.
I was like, I can't remember his first name, but I was Driscoll, Mark Driscoll.
Yeah.
He had said something because I was looking for information. He said, James 3 quickly reminds you, hey, when you point somebody else's sin out, hey, you need to look in the mirror and look at
You
yourself.
really do.
Mm-hmm.
And that mirror, oh boy, you start seeing all them flaws.
The thing that gets me is, you know, like before starting this, I was posting sermons, so to speak, and I always tried to keep them vague. You know,
Right.
like we would discuss this topic, or these actions or whatever the case may be. But, you know, like I was almost never pointing out a specific group or person or whatever. But I always threw the caveat in there is like, don't bother coming after me about my sin. I'm fully aware, you know.
Yeah. God
You
tells me
know.
every day.
Well, and that's the thing is like a lot of us, we don't act like our sin is a problem. We think we've got it under control, or, you know, we live by grace, but I guess we use it all up for other people. You know, I don't know how that's supposed to work, but, you know, I don't think a lot of people, shall we say, masquerading as Christians are as self-aware as they would like to believe. And granted, that could go for me too. You know, like this isn't something said in judgment. But if you are aware of your sin, it's not hypocritical to point out somebody else's.
No.
You know,
God tells. I mean, I think God.
actually, if you're not aware of your own sin, it's still not hypocritical to point out somebody else's.
No.
It's hypocritical when your sin is somehow okay, but theirs will send them to hell.
Right.
You know?
Right. I mean, and you know, people consider that judging, but it's really not. It's, you know, I go back to the
Well, I mean,
testing the spirit.
it is, but not
it's
in the manner that
that
people use it as.
yeah. It goes back to test the spirit, and you know, the Bible teaches us to, hey, you know, but you know, to what is, I can't remember the Bible verse is, but I remember reading it, and it was correction. It was about correction.
Oh yeah.
But it also says, hey, if you bring your gift to the altar and you have a problem with your brother, leave your gift there, go and reconcile with your brother, and then come back.
That sounds like a Paul thing there.
So yeah, I think it's in Matthew, maybe. I can't remember if it's the Beatitudes or I don't remember. It was a Celebrate Recovery thing.
Right,
That
right.
we learned, but I mean, that's a big thing that we tend to forget. You know, he brought up the whole mirror thing, and that was something we talked about in James 3. You know, it's like looking in the mirror, walking away and forgetting what you saw. You know, that's bad, but you know, when you look in the mirror and you start seeing those, it feels bad, but that's not necessarily a bad thing to see your faults when you're looking at yourself in the mirror.
Right.
You know, that's actually a good thing. That's growth. That's what God wants us to do.
Yeah, but that's not where the world's at.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no.
It's not.
It's live your truth, do your thing, do whatever makes you happy,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of other self-destructive nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, when he said that, it just made me think, hey, you know, but that's not necessarily a bad thing when we see those flaws.
No,
We're to see the flaws so we can correct the flaws, you know, so we can grow.
Mhm.
That's the whole point of it, which is why we are going into Psalms 23, because, you know, we've talked about, you know, the struggle of controlling our minds and our feelings and, you know, our words and, you know, basically walking the walk that we're talking. So now it's finding that peace in that. And that's kind of a lot of what Psalms 23 is about is, you know, finding peace in God and knowing that he's there no matter what,
Mhm.
you know. So, and that's where we're kind of starting out with is Psalms 23 and verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
What always got me growing up is hearing that line, okay? Because most time when we hear that, it's at a funeral, it's at a solemn, sad event. And you hear, the Lord is my shepherd, okay? I shall not want. And in my mind, it was always, why? It always came across to me as like, how do I word this? It always kind of came into my head as the Lord is my shepherd that I do not want or should not want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when you, of course, growing up and maturing and everything, and you read through the rest of it, it starts making more sense. So for newcomers or anybody that gets as confused as I do, think of it like this. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. You know, that changes the complete understanding.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that I do not want, it's and I will not want.
Right.
You know,
It's about provision.
yeah. And
However, it is not necessarily like money or it's about anything that we need that God will provide. And it's not wants, it's needs.
right.
Whether it is, hey, parting those waters so we can get through safely, or just being with us as we go through that storm, or, hey, we're struggling financially and, we get the help that we need there, or we need to, and it could be so many different things that people don't realize.
I can hear it rubbing against my shirt.
That's why I do it.
When people think of God's provision, they think of material.
Generally, that's where most of us in Western society go. It's material, it's financial, monetary. Once you dive into a more Bible-based Christian, it would go into more provisional, like healing, sustenance, and whatnot.
Yep.
But understanding of this comes better with understanding the basis for which it was written. What was David, and David wrote this psalm, King David. What was he before he was king? What was his job?
He was a shepherd.
He was a shepherd. Okay. What is the job and tasks of the shepherd? What do they do?
Protects the flock.
Protects the flock. If one runs away, what does the shepherd do?
He leaves
He's
the
a bad
99 for the one.
Yeah.
He carries a rod and a staff. What are they for?
To hook him back.
Well, you have the shepherd's hook,
Yeah.
and the aspect of that is when one starts to wander, you bring it back. But what's the rod for?
Protection.
Fighting off the wolves.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So it is with that sort of understanding that David is writing that the Lord is the ultimate shepherd. His are the sheep, and it's coming from that time, that mindset, so to speak.
Yes. Yep.
So in going through this, we're going to see a lot of analogies that go directly to shepherding. Zach, of course, talking with the audience, does that clarify things? So
I passed that test. That's all I can think of. Like, I'm being quizzed. I'm being put on the spot. Hang on, let me think. No.
well, and I know I've been looking at you, but I'm more thinking out loud.
Well, I'm like directly across from you too, so
Right.
that's why I have to kind of. And when I look at him, I'm like off camera.
I
So
put him on the spot. He goes blank.
he does. Sometimes I do too.
And no, and I'm not judging. A lot of times I do too.
He's like, and then you never know what's going to come out of his
Right.
mouth.
I'm like that squirrel in a deer headlight. Look like, is that a car? Is that, what is it?
Right.
What? Oh, that's a car.
No, I get it. I don't like being put on the spot either.
Especially when I'm in world over here and I'm paying attention, but I'm not.
Well, there's that, and I know we brought this up, but for those who aren't familiar, we don't rehearse these.
No. No.
A lot of times we study, we may or may not come up with sometimes we do, and we don't use it whatsoever.
But when we
But all of
study,
this is mostly fly by the seat of our pants, in the direction that God, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, however, in the Trinity that, or maybe we're just easily distracted and there's Christmas tinsel.
Yeah.
Like you can call it whatever you want, but none of this is rehearsed. So when one of us is asking a question or speaking, we don't know what's coming out of the other person's mouth.
we don't.
We are all on a, this is as new to me as it is to y'all.
And when we study individually too. So, what you're getting out of it is going to be different than what I get out of it. And, of course, we live together. So we try to share what we get. But, I do my thing, he does his, and we just share what we got.
Understanding still might, you might derive something a little, even if y'all are on the same page, you might be in slightly different corners of the ring.
Right.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
If that's
As long as it's scripturally accurate.
Yeah.
but that's the point of the podcast though too, is so we can, like I said, it's table talk, to come together
Right.
around the table and discuss and talk and learn and just support each other and be there for
Well,
each
not
other.
only that, but understanding the,
Yeah.
like yes, you can sit down at the house and read your Bible, and you should,
Mhm.
you know. But your understanding is only going to take you as far as your comprehension will allow the Holy Spirit in.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that you can't get great divine understanding, but you're going to get more in discussion with other believers. You're going to get more talking to or listening to a pastor or a theologian. Let's face it, it is their job to study this.
Yeah.
Now I'm not going to say that they're always correct, because they're not.
And
Man is fallible.
there's been times
And
that
by
we've
man,
been wrong.
right.
You
And by
know,
man, I mean human.
we try to correct it when we are, but that's why we say
And
don't
that's
take
the
our
big
word
thing,
for it always. I
know.
mean, if you question it, go look it up and let us
I
know.
myself have misrepresented the scripture, the Holy Spirit, and all that.
Mhm.
And I've had to send those texts like, hey, I was completely in left field. My apologies.
Mhm.
Like, shouldn't have happened. It did. My understanding, and sometimes you get emotionally involved, and that's a completely different topic. But
Yeah.
but we have discussed that too. Don't let your feelings do your thinking for you.
Yep. Yep.
You know.
But and we're also, we're open to hear conversation from the people who are watching too, and if you got a different point of view or something sticks out to you, leave it in the comments. That's
Yeah.
what this is about. This is about coming together as, brothers and sisters of Christ and just learning and growing together.
Well, and the caveat that gets me, and I will say this for the viewing audience: there are folks out there that they cannot seem to see any other thing than what they themselves see or believe. So if you agree with them, then you are correct, and if you disagree, and I don't even mean like a complete contradiction, I mean not in 100% total agreement, then you're wrong. If you are one of those individuals, you are welcome to chat and complain. I don't know that you'll get the response that you're after,
Well, we'll make it
Uh,
a fun time.
Well, and that's the thing, and I throw that caveat out there. It's not to specifically argue, but I'm not one of them people that you can come at and say you're wrong and expect that to be the end of the conversation. You're going to have to show me where I'm wrong and prove to me where I'm wrong. And if it's a situation where I am factually wrong, then this should be easy to point out. But if it's based on interpretation and understanding, you're going to have your work cut out for you.
Yeah.
I need some evidence.
Well, not only that, but the greater leaps of faith that are in your rationale, the farther you are from the truth, and that goes for me too, the closer to the word that you can get. And I'm just going to make up something out of the blue here, but like if we tried to say, drinking water is unscriptural, and I'm making this up.
Right.
Okay, if we said that and you said, well, it is scriptural, here's the verses that support that. Okay, but I'm going to throw you the verses that don't support it. And if we can't agree on how you reconcile that, because you have to take the scripture as a whole, you don't get to pick, none of us get to pick the verses that we like and ignore the ones that don't agree with us. You have to be able to rationalize the whole of it, and so that's my caveat, and I do believe that the Bible is true cover to cover. I don't believe it holds contradictions. I believe the contradictions are based on our understanding of it.
Yep.
Like the contradictions aren't in the Bible; they're in our interpretation and understanding. And some of it is going to be in the changing of language and the way people write and communicate, not only between languages but across time.
Right.
Because we're going to read Psalm 23 in English, and there's 50 English translations, and I'm just making a random number. There's a lot of English translations, but I speak neither Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic, and most people today would not speak the Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic that was spoken at that time. So we're doing the best we can. Give us a break.
Yep. So I'm reading over my notes, and of course, you kind of jumped right into the shepherd thing.
And I'm going to have to add one last thing in here.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir. I'm doing my best.
Of course, my notes started out, who is the Lord?
Right.
And you kind of jumped into, the shepherd, which is later on down, but that made me think, okay, there's a whole nother series there.
Yes.
The names of the Lord.
Yes.
And then it's saying, he, whenever you see Lord capitalized, like all caps, like it is, then it's, the covenant name of Yahweh is what it's saying, and so that's the one that, that's the God who revealed himself to Moses in the burning bush. I am
That I am.
Yes. And so, you've got that. He's the creator. He's, there's so many things that he is, but this is talking about the shepherd.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of sorry, you kind of skipped ahead there, but
No.
so a little backstory on
we
that.
don't practice this, all right?
I know. We never know. But yeah, and so I think that will be a whole good series to do too at some point. The names.
Well, at some point we could probably do. I don't know if it could be. Of course, we could turn it into a series, but Psalm 22, 23, and 24 all were linked, right?
Yeah.
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 Yes, I'm sure it's got us going on everywhere.
Yes.
So yeah, it says in ancient Israel, being a shepherd wasn't a romantic, peaceful job. It was gritty, exhausting, and dangerous. So that kind of goes into the staff and the shepherd's hook, because sheep have zero internal compass.
Boy,
I know that feeling. Like it says, sheep have zero internal compass. If left to themselves, rely not on their own understanding, they will walk right off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
How many cliffs have you walked off of?
Several.
Yeah. Or wander straight into danger. And they must be constantly guided to safe paths.
Left to our own devices, we jump into that head first with both feet.
Yes. Because we think we know better.
Well, yeah. That's something, I don't know how many times I've had to, are you stupid? Yeah.
Have you met me? Because I have.
What's that mean? What's the stupidest thing you've ever done?
Yes.
Well, brave of you to assume I've peaked.
So this is interesting because you're usually the history person. Like, you know the history, and I think that's why we work well together, because we all know different, aspects of this stuff. You're really big in the history. So this is interesting. Talking about the provision part of it. And this will go into, the laying down and the green pastures. So Israel was rocky and very rough ground, rigid. It says arid, but I don't even know what that means, but okay. But I'm assuming
Colorado, Arizona.
Yeah. And so finding green pastures and clean water required the shepherd to know the land perfectly and to lead the flock in it. So, that kind of goes back into the metaphor of, Jesus is our shepherd.
I assume y'all have watched that movie, Kingdom of Heaven.
Yes.
There is a scene in there when the Muslim army is going to be coming to attack Jerusalem. And, they bring up, well, how long is it going to take them? A couple of days, because they are going from water hole to water hole. And I bring that up specifically. They knew the lay of the land. If you back up one chapter on the DVD, the Christian army decimated themselves because they marched straight across the desert and most of them were dead before they ever got to the battle. They didn't know the lay of the land. They didn't know where the watering holes were, where clean water versus tainted water might have been. And I think anybody who's watched that would be a good representation of what we're speaking now. A way to wrap your head around, the difference in knowing your terrain, knowing the lay of the land, and the historical aspect. That was a huge problem when we got involved in Vietnam. They're fighting on home turf.
Yeah.
We don't, we don't know the lay of the land. There's trees, there's mountains. That's, it's hot. we're done. That's all we know.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting for that because you don't really, when you read the scripture, sometimes you don't realize
Oh, I see
how
it now.
things were then.
Right.
Like we base it off of what we see now.
Well,
A lot of times.
a lot of times we do, and we have this. I know they've got a term for it, but we try to view history and the sins and mistakes of the past, or even the victories of the past, through a modern lens and understanding.
Yes.
Um,
I call it tunnel vision. Like we're focused on what's right
well,
here in
and a
front of
lot of
us.
times it is, but it's also a severe lack of comprehension.
Yeah.
You know, um, I get to, like Jordan Peterson pointed out, and I don't remember how he worded it. So if you don't understand, like how what the people of Nazi Germany or Mao's China were like, they were just like you. You know, there was some characters who were, you know, evil, I think would be a good word for it. But the majority of the populace were going with the flow. What was easier? Were they scared? I mean, let's go back to pandemic times. How many people were making a lot of decisions based on fear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for that matter, how many people were deciding what other people should do based on fear?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's really no different. We don't understand the human psyche like we think we do.
Yeah.
From a historical standpoint, we would look back now and say, hey, these folks were evil. Everybody in there was evil. No, a handful of them were probably evil. Everybody else did what they were told, or what fear and emotion compelled them to do, or even ambition for that matter. And the thing that a lot of people just can't wrap their heads around is some of the biggest atrocities that have ever happened in the history of mankind was for the greater good. I don't agree with it, but that was the motivation, that there was some, like the end justifies the means.
Yeah.
And, as you mentioned, my adoration of history, when I hear parallel language like that in modern times, makes me very nervous.
Yeah.
But back on topic.
Sorry, our
No.
kids are trying to help us check on sound and stuff. So
Yeah.
in Italian, no, okay, no, whatever. Okay, so yeah, it kind of goes into that he's our shepherd and we're the sheep. So it's talking about that, and it breaks that down so we have a better understanding what the beginning of this verse actually means.
I can just imagine a bunch of sheep roaming around a field, bumping into each other like, dude, I'm walking here.
We should have had Gabe on here for this one. He's been trying to wrestle sheep all week to get into another pen. He's like, they are not cooperating. They will not go to where the food is.
No.
He's like, it's right there.
There are certain animals that, like a lot of times horses or cows, bison, they follow the leader. If the leader, is heading this way, then the rest will kind of follow. They are a herd flock animal to its truest sense. I mean, look at humanity. How many people do because somebody said so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sheep are different. They're more like squirrels.
Yeah.
They're kind of random. They're all over the place. I've never been a shepherd of sheep. The closest I can say of my true understanding of sheep probably is wool. I just really haven't been around them a whole lot.
Yeah, he's kind of dog sitting and animal sitting for friends of his that are out of town, and
Right.
they're paying him, and he's like, they wanted me to put them in this other pen, and they're just not going. I don't know what to do. I'm like, just leave them where they're at for now. I mean, it's about the storm. You got to get home.
Well, I mean, he might be able to separate a few off from the herd, and instead of trying to get them all to go, just we've got these 5 in there, and now we're going to go get another 5.
Yeah,
You know?
like, and I don't know how many they have. I don't think they have that many,
Well,
but
and I don't know.
yeah,
And,
but it was comical because he's like, they are not cooperating.
but, like you get into American prairie days and whatnot,
Yeah.
sheep and goat herders had trained dogs to help,
Yes. Yeah.
which the dogs, I'm sure, absolutely loved.
So and when we're looking at this, and if you think back, the Bible, look at all the verses in the Bible. What animal are humans, mankind, called most in the Bible? We're not lions. We're not eagles. We are sheep.
Most of the time, there are individual passages where, we shall fly on wings like the eagles. And whatnot.
Yes.
There are individual passages based on circumstance.
Yes.
But yeah, throughout, yeah, we are
Identified as sheep.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about how fitting that is for him going through that.
Yeah.
And that was just yesterday, day before, so this has been recent. So I'm like, oh, that's
Thursday before the storm come rolling. Yeah.
This is gonna work
Well,
perfectly.
that's what you pointed out.
Yeah.
Try being a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all I
Come
can
eat
think
dinner. I'm
is-
playing a game right now.
Right.
And all I can think is God's looking down on us, and we have that same mentality. Like, I want you to go here, but you're still standing over here. Like, the food is over here. Like, come, I'm trying to provide for you over here.
I heard a pastor say once, and for those listening, we are in the what we call the heartland area. We're in Western Kentucky, but we are in an area that within an hour's drive, you can be in Illinois, Missouri, Tennessee, almost Indiana. And depending on if there was a more direct way to travel, you could probably be in Arkansas in close to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So we are in an area of, several states coming together in a relatively small spot. And I heard a pastor say once that if the Lord has ordained that you're going to go, let's say, to Memphis.
Yeah.
Eventually you're going to get to Memphis. Now you can get on the highway and turn south and go straight to Memphis, or you can go to Chicago, New York, Iowa, Des Moines. You can do all of that, but you're still going to end up in Memphis. And honestly, I think that's what a lot of what we're doing as Christians is like. We're going every direction except the one that we should be going.
Yep.
And the stupid thing is, we're still going to get to the same places
I'm
eventually.
trying.
No, Chris.
Oh.
Grace is saying hi to Chris.
Oh.
Hi, sweetie.
Yeah, sorry.
Kids
See?
still won't talk to me in person.
No, she won't. She's looking at you like, I don't know who you are, but I see you all the time and yell Chris
Right.
all the time on the screen. Oh, that kid. And it just reading some of this about, because it actually describes, how a sheep is and all that, and how you kind of see why God calls us sheep. And, he's a shepherd because we are so much like him.
In a lot
there's,
of ways, yeah.
they're incredibly vulnerable. They have no natural defense mechanisms, no camouflage, no fangs, no armor. They're not fast runners. Well, we know if I'm running, something's wrong, so you better be running too.
Yeah.
They are.
And it's not for donuts.
They're easily spooked.
I'm only going to run for certain donuts.
Yes.
I don't care when the light comes on at the major chain. That does not impress me.
Don't impress me much.
There's a few places around here that, and I don't want to call out names. There's a few places around here where I truly enjoy their donuts. There's some other places where I probably won't go there and buy a donut, but if somebody has a box of them, I'll help myself.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a little shop in Gatlinburg. Yeah, I'll run for them donuts. I will. It might be stupid, but it is what it is. I love the place.
But yeah, and it says that if a sheep falls on its back, it becomes cast. it can't flip itself back over.
So
So
it's
you
like a
have to
turtle.
help it up. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, I didn't know that
Where
either.
at?
Huh.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, it cannot flip itself back over and will die without the shepherd intervening. Now, when I say that we're a lot like sheep, I'm not meaning physically. Well, some of this might be physically. I know some of that. If I'm falling, I can't get up. I'm just saying,
Right, right.
Yeah, I need a crane, forklift. It's
For
over
me,
with.
it really depends on how I, not as much of the fall as much of the position.
Yeah.
Um,
If I'm falling on ice, forget it. My legs are.
But I say this more in, like I said, a metaphorical way. It's not necessarily a physical thing, more of
Well,
a mental, like,
even scripture referring to, that in and of itself is a metaphor.
yeah.
So
But I mean,
You
like
know.
when I say we're a lot like sheep, that's what I mean. I'm
Very
not
much.
not saying
And-
that we're our body like we can't fight and fend for ourselves. It's more of on a
Right.
spiritual level.
well, no, the downside is that it gets more literal than what we like to admit.
Yes.
Right.
It is said metaphorically, yes, but when you start pulling on the threads and drawing the tangents, yeah, do we run around like chickens with our head cut off? Yes, we do.
That's what I was
That's
saying.
not metaphorical.
I know some of this I can relate to physically too. I'm just saying, but
Right.
a lot of it though is mental, more emotional, more that side of it is what
Right.
we relate to the most as being the sheep and Jesus being our shepherd because we need him for that spiritual side.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what it is. So that's where it comes into, the Lord is my shepherd. He is making a profound admission of vulnerability,
hmm
and it's like basically without him, I am defenseless. Without him, I am lost. I need constant care. And thankfully, I have a caregiver who never sleeps.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of, breaking down that little bit, that very first part of that verse kind of gives us an idea of backstory, I guess.
Right.
An understanding of what this is actually referring to and meaning a deeper dive into it. Because we read this. I've read this many times in my life. And you don't really think about, like you said, I shall not want. We're like, oh, well, I'll never want for anything because,
Right.
he's my shepherd. But that's not really, or I can't want, or I'm not supposed to want. It just means that he's going to provide for us like you're supposed to.
There are certain passages, and for all of us on an individual level, it's going to vary because all of us understand things differently or comprehend at a different speed and level. But like Psalms 23, Psalm 91, the Lord's Prayer, there's certain individual things out there that your understanding of it will probably not be complete. Well, I don't know if it'll ever be complete, but you're going to be on a very limited understanding unless you start picking apart that individual passage line by line and sometimes word for word, to actually start scooping and digging what is it he's actually trying to convey. And there's times I love doing that, like we're going to pick us apart, like we're, like we're going to pick at this like a fried fish fillet, like we're getting all the meat off the bone, and being delicate with it, like we're not just jumping into a stack of ribs, like we want to get every bit of that meat off of there, but we don't want to eat the bone.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, how many times do we read the Bible just to be it's just words. Like we
A lot
don't
of
read it to understand. We don't read it. It's just, oh, I read the Bible,
Well, and that's where a lot of it is. And don't get me wrong. Reading the Bible, even out of just habit,
It's good.
is still better than nothing,
Yeah.
but we should be reading to understand and comprehend. We should be, like I say it repeatedly on here, we should be reading it to learn and understand and to take correction. We should not be reading it to confirm what we thought we already believed. I mean, we need to be reading it as an instruction manual more than validation.
Right.
Yeah,
because
which
we could
again, in
take
Western society, people don't know how to do that.
right. And I know since we've started this doing this podcast. I love the fact that we're doing it because we are doing more of that deep dive into what it actually means. I've read the Bible all the way through, beginning to end. I made it through it
Right.
in a little over a year, and I just completed it at the beginning of this year. And, but I read it to say, hey, I've actually read it because I've never done that before.
Right.
And I'm like, that's something I probably need to do, at least to get a good start. Let's read it. And then when I read it through the next time, then I can do a deeper dive. Because at
Right.
least reading it through, I have some basic understanding of it.
And in that, like what I would tell people is, if your tism doesn't kick in, if you want to read the Bible covered, like if somebody was going to do exactly what you just said, I want to read the Bible through and then I want to go back and try to understand it. Fine. That first reading through, look up the order and read it chronologically so you know what's happening in the timeline.
I did it backwards. I'm reading it through it chronologically now, and I'm like, oh, this is making so much more sense.
And obviously, that's been my trouble with getting through the prophets. I can better understand, like, what you would call the minor prophets, Jonah, because it's talking about a more specific event.
Yeah.
Daniel is written very well because he explains, hey, this is where we're at, this is who's king, and this is what we're talking about. It for me, it helps with the understanding. If I can, some of the other prophets, a lot of what they write doesn't directly tie to anywhere in the timeline. You have to start searching it out elsewhere. Like you're in 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, trying to figure out.
It jumps a lot. And I mean, I know with me, because right now that's where I'm at. I'm in the Kings and Chronicles, and it goes from Kings to, Chronicles to even with David, it's like,
yeah, and it chronicles,
and then and Psalms, and then back again, and then but doing it the chronological.
Well, and that's what screwed me up, is going through those. Hey, this person was king of Judah. This person was king of Israel. And I'm like, we haven't even got to the spot in the Bible where Israel was divided yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
When does that happen? After Solomon dies.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's 15 books away.
Well, I have the YouVersion Bible app.
Right.
And there's actually a plan that you can start, and it's read the Bible in a year in chronological order.
Right.
And so that's what I like. I'm reading it now, and I'm like, okay, so this is making more sense because it's in order. I understand that it was separated by, the original is separated based on genre. I would say genre
context,
topics, I guess. Yeah. You got your gospels, you got, this, and you got that. And I understand that that's why it's broke up, because they're doing like items together.
Well, and it does make more sense to divide, shall we say, the Old Testament from the New Testament.
Yes.
But for me, it's like, if you go through the Bible list, Job is what, right before Psalms?
I think so, yeah. I think.
But Job actually takes place at the tail end of Genesis, chronologically.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why isn't that way up there?
Because your Torah, is it the Torah that's first?
Right.
And so there's only certain chapter or books that are part of that. And then it's the way they break it up. Yeah.
Right.
But yes, I mean, in reading it both ways, I think, you can get an understanding of how it's broke apart. The original way, but then doing it chronological order, you have more of an understanding timeline wise of how things actually went down. And especially if I'm not a big history person, you are, but that probably helps you a lot more with that too.
Yeah. Having the timeline helps, and understanding. It's like, I was telling somebody not too long ago, like the 4 Gospels take place simultaneously. They are 4 different accounts from 4 different people about the same topic.
Mm-hmm.
Now they do kind of lean into different.
Some of the stories are different.
Well, it's not just that, but like the book of John would be focused more about the love of Christ.
Oh, yeah.
The book of Matthew would be a little differently focused.
Yeah.
But you've got 4 stories about the same person in the same timeline.
Yeah.
But then you get to the book of Acts. Well, the book of Acts takes place over like 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
That is a collection that took place. So then when you get into like 1st and 2nd Peter or Corinthians or whatever the case may be, a lot of those epistles were taking place during Acts,
Right.
so understanding that aspect will help with the understanding of reading the Bible, that the Gospels, they fall on this time frame, but Acts is not, I mean, it is next chronologically, but the epistles don't come after Acts. A lot of them actually happen during Acts, and stuff like that. Like I said, some of this stuff I read and the tism kicks in and one eye goes off in the left field somewhere. Because my brain is struggling to understand, but also to draw the lines and the strings to pin it together. And, like if I just start reading Isaiah, I have no idea. I mean, I know Israel's doing wrong because that's the general assumption of the prophets. Is, they're screwing up and he's trying to warn them,
Yep.
But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who was king during that time period. What specifically were they doing wrong? Because
the prophets and the judges, that's pretty much
right. Well, I mean, the judge aspect now that actually does take place prior to like King David and King Saul,
because they didn't want king, or after the judges when they're like, oh, well, now we want a king, and he's like, why? Because basically, okay, I am your king, so why do you want a king? Like,
and again, to me, that goes back to the whole idea of the sheep and the shepherd aspect. God's design was never for us to have a king here on earth. We were supposed to follow God. I know it sounds like a broken record, but when Jesus was asked, which is the greatest of the commandments, you love God above everything else, and you love your neighbor as yourself. If we can accomplish those two things, the law is complete. Like you're not going to upset anything in the law if you can do those two things to a biblical context, not a worldly context, but to a biblical context. There would be no need for a high king, so to speak. There would be no aspect of, now I get modern times with governments trying to do trade deals and whatnot. Yeah, there does need to be a certain hierarchy. We don't need the whole of Great Britain sending petitions over here and then every single American giving their opinion on it. That just sounds like chaos to me.
Yeah.
So there's certain aspects in modern times that I get it. I don't always like it, but I get it. But back then, they were a nation created and founded by God. That God was in charge. God was the authority. God was the shepherd, but he was also king, ruler, lord, however many names you want to put to it. Why was there an aspect of judges? You had to have somebody that understood and knew the law to make decisions outside of, like if me and you had a disagreement of sorts, if I stole your sheep, well, me and you, if we couldn't settle it between ourselves, we had to go find somebody who was impartial. That's where judges come into play. And hopefully you don't get the one that killed a bunch of people with a donkey jaw.
That kind of goes back into the, you're talking about the worldly things and, wanting a king and God's supposed to be our king. It goes back to the I shall not want,
Right.
kind of topic there. And it's like, okay, and you touch base on it in our modern world. It seems impossible not to want something. Like we want the newest car, the newest phone, the newest tech, the this and that. Like we are consumed with materialistic things.
We really are.
That's funny you brought that up. Yeah.
Hmm.
Where are you going with it? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, do your thing.
What was I talking about today with the Cobalt? The Cobalt's got a broken spring.
And needs brakes and some other things.
It's sitting like this.
Right.
I'm like,
He's like, "There's a car there at the work. It's like $2,500." I'm, we don't need another payment. Just fix that. Like, how much is it gonna cost to fix it? How much will it cost to fix the van? Like $250 if that's what's wrong with it. I'm like, it's a good start. That's better than $2,500. Like, we just took on a loan for a new car because Gabe had to have a car. Like,
Right.
you know,
I want.
I want a new car.
You know, there's a certain aspect of it that I do believe is in human nature.
Yeah.
Um,
The easy way out.
well, it's not only that, but
It's really not the easy way if you're putting yourself more in
there,
debt.
there's that. You know, a lot of times we are so focused on the immediate that we don't look
It's
5 or 10 years into the future.
it's the quick fix.
That's where a lot of times we're at. And what I will say here in the United States, we have a conundrum, and I don't know what the right answer is. All right.
Yeah.
Well, on this wanting thing,
Yeah.
because what we want is good paying American jobs.
Yes.
Mhm.
I agree.
But when we get paid, we want to buy the cheapest foreign made stuff that we can. Well, we're not going to have good paying American jobs if there's not a market for whatever we're producing.
Right.
If we are buying, you know, and I'm not opposed to foreign made vehicles, but we're not going to have good paying American jobs if we're sending all of our money overseas.
Yeah.
You know, now if we can compete at a reasonable aspect, fine. You know, like I have no problem with that. But look at how many people fuss about we need good paying American jobs, and most of their shopping is done on Amazon. You know, how much of it is coming from overseas and not here? Temu, what's some of them other places? And
AliExpress. Yeah.
and I'm not saying that in
TikTok.
judgment.
Shein.
I'm simply saying, now don't get me wrong.
I don't shop
I'm
at
not
any of
getting-
them.
There are certain aspects.
Yes.
Like I'm not giving $80,000 and $90,000 for a new truck. I'm not. Going
No.
No.
That's
I wouldn't
ridiculous.
care if I had the money. You know, like if I could drop cash, I'm still not giving that much for a truck.
No.
Because, and nothing against the workers who built it or anything like that. I'm old enough to remember that the same truck that they're selling for $80,000 now was maybe 16 to 20 years ago.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We have had a huge expansion of inflation in the last 20 years.
And it run better back then.
There's that too.
Yes. They were
and
better quality built then.
well, here's where I'm at. I would put $20,000 to $30,000 into a 70s and prior vehicle before I drop 80 or 90
In a
on
heartbeat.
something modern.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but at the same point in time, to me, that's also feeding the conundrum.
Yeah.
Except a lot of them parts for a 60s or 70s vehicle, you can't buy overseas.
No.
You know, but that is where we're at in America. We want good paying jobs, and then when it comes to spending our money, we want to spend as little as we possibly can. And I get it. But you're not going to have good paying American jobs if American companies can't compete.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if we're giving all of our money to foreign interests, what does that say about American jobs? You know,
Yeah.
and we can fuss all day long about the minimum wage needs to be this or that or whatever, but again, if all of our money is going elsewhere, you're actually contributing to the problem.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like I said, I'm not hating on anybody that buys a Toyota. You know, like it's a good car.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
I may or may not have a slight Temu issue of shopping.
And a lot of us do. Don't get me wrong. I'm just as guilty as everybody else.
But I also shop here a lot too. Like, I mean,
Well, and like there's certain things.
I think most of my money is spent here, not overseas.
Right. It really sank into me. I was watching a video the other day, and see, there's a certain BC Rich guitar that I want, and yeah, it's a want, which I'm going to ignore the part where that ties into what we're talking about. But I've been keeping an eye on their website. They have not built one in several years. I'm not very good about buying them used. Okay. But I found a video where they were interviewing, I guess, the owner or CEO or somebody very high up at BC Rich. They're back up and running. They had, I guess, shut down or been bought out or whatever, but they're now back up and running. And their CEO made the comment, was talking about like Guitar Center. It is a chain, but it's also a brick and mortar store. We need places like that. We need to shop at places like that because it's going to get to a point just like Sears and Kmart and some of these other ones where if all of our shopping happens online, these brick and mortars close. And you won't, like from a guitar player's aspect, you won't get the opportunity to play one. You just have to buy it and order it and hope for the best, because let's face it, the mom and pop stores are shutting down also.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, I would rather shop at a mom and pop than I would a big chain. Like on my motorcycle stuff, parts is one thing, but accessories, leather gear, there's a local store in Aurora. I would rather buy from him as long as he can reasonably compete on price for the same product.
Right.
And if he's a little higher, fine. But I would rather buy from him than go online.
Right.
To me, it's supporting local business, and I don't want to pay twice the price. But if it's a little higher, I'll deal because I would rather do that. I would rather him be in business than me having to order everything online. But
Yeah.
back to this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this applies to this because it's talking about how the advertising industry it spends billions of dollars, so we always feel like we need more.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and it
Well,
does.
I
Like
don't
we're
care what
lacking.
the Joneses.
We're lacking in some sort because we don't have this and we don't have that, and
It goes all the way back to the garden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can have everything you want except this one thing.
But I
What
want
we
that.
do? We focus on the one thing.
We can't have. Yeah.
What do people say about the like 80-20 rule? And which really heavily applies in relationships. You'll get the 80 and you'll worry about the 20, and then you'll leave the person that gives you 80 for the person that only brings the 20 that you was not getting.
Mm-hmm.
We really are dumb sheep.
Yep.
We are,
Matt.
yeah, we are, wholly ignorant. We, for whatever reason, we cannot see, past about the third or fourth step.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of us can see past about the first or second. But for some that do actually try to be rational, our sight is still only limited.
Right.
We're still only going to see so far. Where God, God sees the whole thing play out. He knows what choice we're going to make. We don't understand, how many things have come around in the last 5 years that ties back to something that took place maybe 15 or 20 years ago, that it makes sense now. But you wondered then why he was being picked on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's because we can't see past step 1 or 2, and don't get me wrong. That's everybody, like nobody can see step 20. And if they could, I want to be friends,
Right.
simply, like we're going to go to the casino. I made that comment the other day. We had a 30% chance of rain. Downpour. I'm like, won't they get meteorologists to the casino? I'm like, because this is a 30% chance we're getting that roulette table.
Yeah, we are.
And then you get the 90% and you get nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's sunshine, 95,000 degrees right now.
Yeah.
You can cook an egg on the hood.
So, we focus a lot on what we can get in materialistic stuff. And,
Yes.
but David, we need to be more like him. He looks at his life. He's like, I have everything I need.
Mhm.
Like God provides everything that I need. And so it goes into the I shall not want. And doesn't mean that we're going to get every luxury item that we want, or, hey, well, look at that new car. I want that, so I'm going to get that. That's not what it means by I shall not want. God's going to provide.
Right.
That is not what God's going to provide for us. I mean, he could, but that's not,
If you want to feel a real kick in the pants on Western culture, look up what the Bible says about borrowing and paying interest.
I know.
Because that's where, Western society, we are, as individuals, our lives are run on debt.
Yes.
Scripturally, that's a no-no,
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, most people simply don't have, what is the average price of a home in America? Like
Now?
200 and something thousand.
Yeah.
Easy.
Most of us don't have that laying around, and if we did, the government would flag it.
I mean, a
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
wide mobile home now is 75,000 and up.
And
Easy.
yeah.
Easy. Yeah, I mean, my aunt bought $100,000, a little basic single wide home.
That
3
was probably
bedroom.
30 grand 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, like I bought, we did ours land contract, but we got the
Right.
land, like almost 2 acres of land, the home, and a pool and a storage building for
Right.
40,000. Of course,
Mm.
interest on that because we may actually make his payments,
Right.
his bank payments. But but he was selling it to us for at the
For
time
buyout, yeah.
for buyout 40,000. And like I'm sitting there thinking, who can afford a new place right now? Like,
Right.
I know we can't, like, but I know that if it's what needs to happen, then God will provide for us because that is something that is a need. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that goes back into, we don't, it's not about the luxury stuff that we desire or want. It's, divine sufficiency is how they put it. It was put
Right.
in my studies. But and it means that Yahweh is in charge of our lives. What we have right now is exactly what we need for right now.
Right.
If the shepherd hasn't given it to you yet, you either don't need it or it's not time for it. Contentment isn't having everything you want. It's realizing how much you already have in the presence of the shepherd. And I kind of copy and pasted some of the stuff that I studied on this, and like that right there, that's something that we all need to like.
No, like we said, we spend so much time focused on what we don't have that we spend almost no effort on what we already do.
Mm-hmm. Because like you said, we gotta keep up with the other people. Like they have all this fancy stuff. Well, we need that too, then. But it's not actually a need. We think it's a need, but
Well,
it's not a need.
we've all been around that Debbie Downer.
Yes.
I
Yep.
can remember having a conversation where, I can only listen to so much before I lose my crap, to be honest with you. Now I'll generally start out nice, but when I see it's a losing effort, I try different tactics and show my rear end a little bit. But I remember having a conversation and that's kind of how it went. And I finally was like, have you ever thought about just changing your focus to what you do have instead of what you don't?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what have I got? Well, you're not dead.
Yeah. You woke
Well,
up
I'm not alive. I'm like, well, what's your option? I'm like, you are listing out this whole list of problems and whatnot, which I get it. They're problems. I'm not saying that they're not.
You woke up this morning.
Yeah, but you woke up this morning and you have an opportunity to do something about it. I promise you, if you're dead, you can't fix none of it. You have no chance of it getting better in this life if you die. And I don't know how to tell folks this in a polite, easy manner, but if you don't have your crap right with your soul and with Jesus, it ain't gonna get better when you die.
Nope.
And I mean, it's we really need to stop pretending that everything this world has to offer is as good as it gets or as bad as it gets. This world is, what's the right word? Transitory? Transitionary?
It's not going to be here forever. And we can't take none of this stuff with us when we go.
Not a bit.
None of this is going with us when we go.
None of it.
I mean, we're worried and we're stressing. I mean, a lot of us stress about this kind of stuff, like to the point that it makes us sick. oh, but I need that, I need that, I need that. And we don't stop and think, is it really a need?
Most time it's not.
It's not, but like I said, the marketing, the worldly stuff, society has made all of this stuff such a big thing that it makes you feel like, well, if I don't have it, then I'm missing out on something.
I ran across an interesting reel this morning, and it to me it ties into what we're discussing at this present. It was a comedian talking about it, but he said, why do pharmaceutical companies advertise to the general public on TV? We're not doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And, now they might be advertising a product for a problem that we may or may not have. We still can't go get it.
No.
A doctor has to write you a prescription for it. Why aren't they advertising simply to doctors? And the analogy he brought up is, do you ever see them advertise transmission parts to the general public on TV? And most of us have a transmission, but we're not smart enough to fix it. So, and they know that, so they don't advertise transmission parts on general TV. But even if we have the problem that the pharmaceutical company is putting out there, we're not doctors. We don't know if that'll help us or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it really makes me, stop and think about it. Like a lot of these wants and whatnot, the advertising market. On that aspect, they're advertising to people that can't even access their product.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why a lot of our prices are so dang high, because we're paying for their advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it might be a higher medication cost than, something else that would work. So we're going to go to our doctor. Hey, I saw this and we
On
need
TV,
that.
yeah.
We need that. Tell me about that. And,
And the
Or-
side effects are just as bad as.
I know some of these side effects, and I'm like, I think I'll just not take it. Like, I think I'm going to be better off without
If
it.
experience this, tell your doctor, and like, why am I taking this medicine again?
Right.
Like, and my favorite is when it's like a mood stabilizer, an antidepressant. It might cause major depression. Like, that's the whole point in taking it. So I'm not depressed.
Right.
Like, why would it? Like, yeah, that makes no sense to me. It might
May
cause me to be
suicidal
depressed.
thoughts.
The stupid thing. The stupid thing. If we go to our family doctor, we'll use the scenario that you're talking about. I have depression. I wanted this medication for depression. It's making my depression worse. Okay. So 3 days into it, your depression is worse.
Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to take you to get back in and talk to your doctor to get it changed?
Mm-hmm.
At least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Here's the part that I love. I remember going and getting my blood pressure dealt with. I went. They wrote me a prescription, wanted to see me in a week.
When they say don't take it if you're allergic. How do you know if you're allergic if you've never taken it?
That is
Yep.
that's very correct. But I remember going. They wrote me a script. Come back and see us in a week. We want to check. They wrote a month's prescription. I paid for a month's prescription. In a week, I come back. They didn't like the results. They changed said prescription.
Mm-hmm.
This went on like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, why? I'm like, technically, I have about 4 months worth that I have to flush down the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why I have to pay to be a guinea pig.
Right.
That part I don't.
Or prescribe me just enough for that week. And then if, that don't work, then I'm not out all this money, because they can do that. And you can pay just for that week.
Well, and that's, well, not only that, but every time I came back was another office visit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's my thing. Is like, I've worked, as you in the technical field, you don't charge somebody every time they bring you your car.
No.
You charge them diagnostic time, and if they choose to repair it, that is your fee. But if the repair doesn't work, you don't charge them to come back.
No.
No.
Now if there was something that was progressive, that was not directly related, you work out a deal on that one.
Yeah.
But if somebody brings their car in for a coolant leak and you tighten a hose clamp and 3 days later they call and it's still leaking from that same spot, you cannot charge them for that at that point.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
But the medical field will,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm going to change the subject because I'm getting myself upset on that.
Get out your feelings.
Well, it's the only profession where you can get by with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a mechanic can't do that. An
Nope.
electrician can't do that. A
Nope.
plumber can't do that.
Nope.
Your optometrist can't get away with that. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
But that is the only profession where you pay them to treat you like a lab rat.
Yep.
You know, and I don't think it's right. I really don't.
So
But here we are, and we wonder why things
I'm
fluctuate
actually,
much.
I'm almost to the end of my notes. So like,
Well, we're about close to the end of time, so we're good.
okay, I want to make sure
We got about 30 minutes.
where we were at. So it's got, and I kept this in here too because I thought this is, you know, let's think about ourselves. That inner reflection. This goes very well with that. So, are you trying to be your own shepherd? Because we touched base
Most
a
of the
little.
time we are, yeah.
Yeah, we touched base on this, and this is something for everybody to kind of think about. Are we trying to be our own shepherd? Are we trying to provide for ourselves? Are we trying to say, hey, this is what we need, this is what we need, this is what we need, instead of actually looking at what we actually need? You know,
I'll mess you up with a better one. Are you or are we as individuals trying to determine what is good or evil?
oh yeah,
What is morally right or wrong?
we've
Because at
discussed
the
that.
moment we
Whew.
do that, we have become God.
Yeah, we have discussed that, how we, you know, you can look at something, and I'm not saying this is how it is, but you know, generalize. You can look at something and say, well, that right there is the worst thing. But I can look at it and be like, well, but it's still a sin.
Right.
You know, sin is a sin. Like there's only one sin that outweighs all of them.
Right.
Well, we've discussed that. You know, like, well, you may think that that's like the worst thing ever, but that doesn't, you know, but I think this is instead, you know, or, well, that's not even a bad thing, but it is, you know.
And I have found over the years that a lot of times, you can determine how a person feels about it by how they react to it. We are living in a time where left-handed cigarettes are becoming ever more popular and less litigated, so to speak. But 20 years ago, well, such and such got arrested and went to jail. Well, what for? Well, they had, you know, some grass on them. It's just pot. I'm like, well, it's just illegal. Yeah, but it's just pot. It's, well, you can legally buy and drink beer, but you can't do it under certain circumstances. So are you going to tell the judge, well, it was just beer? You know, but you can tell a lot by, and this is where people are drawing their own personal conclusions. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't bring that up to argue whether it should or should not be legal.
It was just an example.
The whole point is, you know, if it's illegal, then it's illegal whether you like it or not.
Right.
And the same thing applies with sin. Sin is morally wrong whether you agree with it, whether it bothers you. It doesn't matter if your friend does it or if you do it yourself. A sin is a sin is a sin.
Whether you do it or I do it.
Well, and that's the thing, and I think we brought this up last week. Most of us here in Western society would say that cannibalism is morally wrong.
Yes.
But there's island tribes and whatnot.
We're not, just ignore it. Just keep going.
No, I'm not ignoring. I won't put it on hold.
It's not podcast friendly.
No.
Right. But there are tribes over the years where that was completely normal.
She hit me.
Was it on camera?
Probably. No, his arm's not on camera.
Unfortunately, at this point, it's here. But when we look at those tribes and say that they were immoral, and a lot of people would say no because their morality is different. It doesn't work that way.
No.
Something is either moral or it's not. When we start trying to subdivide, well, it depends on the circumstance and the situation. I don't care. Stealing is stealing. It doesn't matter if you're hungry or if you're greedy. Stealing is stealing.
Yeah, when I worked for Dollar
There
General.
are a few things, like I would say that murder is morally wrong. But I think it is accurate to define what I'm talking about. The shedding of innocent blood. That's, to me, that's not the same thing as somebody else was trying to kill me and I just happened to win. You know, like I don't classify that as murder. But the taking of an innocent life, I would consider murder. Now there's other folks that would lump all that together. That's fine.
Mhm.
I'm telling you where I'm at with it.
Right.
But we like to add our own personal. Well, it really doesn't, you know. And like I've talked to people of different sexual orientations and whatnot, and I don't say any of this to hate, but I can separate my personal feelings from my scriptural beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and on a personal note, what you do over there in the business of your own home is none of my business, as
Right.
long as you're not hurting somebody else.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But if you're going to ask me whether or not I think it's moral or biblically wrong, I'm going to come at you from a Judeo-Christian point of view.
Yeah.
You know, now, like I said, but from a personal aspect, your business is your business. I don't care.
Yeah.
But you're not going to make me say that it's all right because you like it.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
do
like-
you, but don't drag me into it.
and that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yep. I love you, but you know, I'm not gonna
But at the same
love what you
point,
do, kind of thing.
right? But at the same point in time, I can't bring myself like if certain things came up on the ballot. Do I think XYZ should be decriminalized or there would probably be some things where I would leave that up to the individual, but there's going to be some other things that I'm going to put a big fat no on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's certain things like I just you're not going to get me on board with expanded socialism. Taxation through majority vote is still stealing. It does, you know, like if the three of us voted to steal something out of this room, okay, well, that's democracy, but it's still stealing,
Right.
you know. So,
Which we're not gonna do.
well, and I'm just as an example, it's you're not going to get me, you know, like I'm not going to cast a vote to expand socialism because it's going to, you have to take it from somebody first, you know, and.
Mhm.
What they've been trying to do over the last, I don't know, 20 years is borrow and print their way.
Yeah.
Which is why a $20,000 truck now costs $80,000. So congratulations, it gets worse by trying to make it better, so to speak. So there we are.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I'll say this for the record, like for the podcast, I try not to get political, but sometimes things do get brought up. I don't want to use this platform to talk about that platform.
Right.
But
sometimes it does kind of go.
Well, and that's where I'm at with
Hand in
this.
hand.
In polite society, they tell you not to talk about politics or religion. And to me, that is the dumbest advice you could ever give because your core foundational beliefs is what's going to dictate your entire life,
Mm-hmm.
which falls right into politics and religion.
Mm-hmm.
You do need to be able to talk about it. You just need to be able to hear an opinion that's different than yours. You
Yep.
know, I'm not saying you have to agree with it, but you need to be able to at least hear it.
Right.
You know,
And just because you don't agree doesn't mean, oh, we're enemies now.
No.
I don't agree with you, so I don't like you no more.
Well,
Like,
we got certain folks that turn into Hare Krishnas. Like you say something they don't like, and they just
yeah,
you know.
like I don't just because we disagree doesn't mean I hate you. Like
Right.
we could still be friends and disagree.
Right.
Like, I mean, you know, that's kind of how it's supposed to work. Like, we're not going to agree with everybody 100% of the time. So
No, and there's a certain aspect where, like, I can totally understand, if somebody is on a completely different moral level, I
right.
can, you know, I can see a certain aspect of that, but again, I'm going to go back to who sets the standard of the morals. Because if they're all subjective,
Yep.
my philosophy is if morality is subjective, then there is no moral high ground. You just like your opinion better than you like theirs.
Right.
That's no high ground. You can't denounce theirs because it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think a lot of folks are ready for that conversation.
No.
Well,
They need it.
well, and eventually we'll probably have that conversation on here.
I've been having it for years.
Well, but that's the point of this is to have those tough
Right.
talks, but to do it in a loving and showing God's grace,
Right.
in a loving way, showing God's grace and mercy. And
I can't just tell them they're wrong.
we can, but it will go.
But I can say it lovingly, right?
We could turn into the Steve Wilkes show.
Yeah.
You are not sorry. But yeah, that's what we're called to do, though. We're called to have those tough conversations.
We honestly are.
And we can't sugarcoat it. And I was about to say something else. We can't sugarcoat it, and
no blowing smoke up the rear end.
Walk on eggshells.
Figure out what she was going to say.
Walk on eggshells around it, and but we are to come in a loving way. We're not to condemn.
So I can't take
that is not our job.
Take the filter off.
What filter?
Oh, so I got to put the filter on.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's coming at it in a way of not to condemn, because that's not our job. We don't condemn them, but we try to teach them God's word, and it's hard for a lot of people to see it and hear it that way. They hear, "Well, you're putting me down, you're coming at me," and they do take it personally. And I understand that, because I've been in that
nobody
position.
likes to hear correction.
Exactly.
Nobody does.
But there's a way to do it without making them feel even worse about things.
Sometimes.
And
some people just ain't going to listen.
No, they're not. But I'm just saying, for us, there's a way for us to do it. I'm not how they receive it. That's on them.
Yeah, I can recall a certain church over the years getting a lot of bad publicity. And my thing is, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. Whether they were right or wrong, I do believe that there was a different manner that they could have gone about it.
Yes.
And until I dive into the exactness of what they were doing and saying, I'm not going to say whether they was right or wrong, because again, I kind of skimmed over it.
Yeah.
But again, my feelings about it is whether they were right or wrong, they could have gone about it in a different way.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I firmly believe that a lot of times as Christians, we take the path of least resistance, where we would have literally told David to pray for Goliath rather than pick up 5 stones.
Yeah.
They
take that turn the other cheek very literal.
In a lot of ways, and the stupid thing is they don't understand what that means either.
It's okay. It's okay. You didn't mean to. It's okay.
But we're not called to do that. We're called to be bold in our faith. We're called to preach boldly. Do you think the apostles held back?
No.
That's what we're called to do.
In many instances, they took beatings.
Yeah. We're called to be more like Jesus. Jesus didn't hold back.
Nope.
He didn't. I almost said it again.
So do you think Jesus would attend a church that ordained a gay minister?
I don't know how Jesus would have, I don't want to speak on Jesus's behalf.
Right.
We can't do that. I think he probably would have showed up to try to show, because even he showed up in his own hometown and tried to show the, love and the message and stuff. And then, but he also
not
knew
everybody is going to receive it.
Yeah. And he knew that. And he's like, yeah, I can't, you're not going to receive the blessings that I have for you because you're not wanting to hear it.
And that's where I'm at. If there's a church that is, actively promoting or preaching anti-scriptural or a different interpretation of scripture. I don't know specifically how Jesus himself, if he would walk in there. I don't know, like he might flip tables and chase with whips.
I think he'd walk in and be like, "What's up?"
You know, he might treat them like he did the Pharisees,
Yeah.
and call them hypocrites and snakes and vipers and liars, and
Mhm.
he, you know, he might try to reach them in love, and
Give him a chance.
But
well,
here- but here's the thing: Jesus knew what we don't. He knows the heart.
and that's what I'm saying. I don't know specifically how Jesus would handle that specific scenario because I don't know what Jesus would do in that specific scenario. I do not
He wouldn't.
think.
I don't think he would tolerate it.
Well,
to that
there's
extent.
that is, if you go through the Bible and you look at aspects of where it actually talks about tolerance, I don't mean people trying to read tolerance into it. I mean where it actually speaks about tolerance, it's almost always used in a negative aspect, like you are not supposed to tolerate this BS.
I see.
And
yeah.
I would,
Mhm.
Yeah.
anybody who feels differently, I would say, what is it about Revelation 2? where it
Yeah.
speaks about the letters to the 12 churches.
Yeah.
Yes.
Read real hard into that.
Mm-hmm. Like, you did great at this, but you know what? You failed miserably on this part, kind of thing.
What
And
kills me is a lot of people will use the aspect of like the woman caught in adultery. Hey, he who's without sin cast the first stone. And they will stop there.
but he said, "Go and sin no more."
They don't want to add that part to it. They want to stop just before that where he did not condemn her and he stopped the others from throwing stones. That's where they want to stop. They don't want to add, hey, you're at the FO part of FA.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Like, I mean, I'm gonna give you a chance here, but don't do it again. I mean, it's like, kind of like with our, us as parents, we're like,
Well,
you do that again, you might get your butt
there's
spanked.
other aspects that get me. And it shows where we are as humans. When Jesus talked to the lady at the well, let's see, she was like outcast from the Jews. What was Samaritan?
Maybe.
I don't remember the specifics, but basically, culturally, he was not supposed to be talking to her, and vice versa. But he read off every sin that she'd done wrong, so in modern times, he judged her.
Yeah.
But he offered her living water, but he also said, don't tell anybody. And the first thing she did was run back to town and told
everybody, yeah.
which shows exactly how well we listen. Now, I know that Jesus knew that she was going to do that.
Mhm.
Like I don't think he was surprised. But it shows where we are as people. God says, don't do this. What do? We do it anyways.
Mhm.
It's like our kids.
Mhm.
Well, and that's honestly where we're at.
Yeah.
In comparison, I've heard a lot of people criticize, that we refer to God as Heavenly Father like we got some kind of sky daddy. Yeah, I've heard that.
Sorry.
It's always used in a manner of derision, and I'm like, have you ever tried to raise kids? Do they listen all the time? Do they do what they're supposed to do even after they've been told? Like, do they always do it to the letter? I would actually, like I have brought this up, and I don't think kids are evil by any means. But the people that believe, that humanity is basically good, and if something goes wrong, you either made a mistake or somebody made you evil. I'm like, have you even raised kids before?
Yeah.
There are children that are very kind, very loving, they're kind-hearted growing up, but in infant stages, are you telling me that they won't bite you? Are you telling me that they won't get very selfish and pull hair? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Smack you in the face.
exactly.
I might
Um,
not be dealing with the little 3-year-old temper tantrums right now.
well, and I'm just saying that, you know, like even the children that are very kind-hearted,
Mhm.
there is a period of growing up where no, all by themselves, they learn how to be mean and selfish. That wasn't taught to them. They already had that,
Yep.
you know. So you're not going to convince me that the worldly idea that people are basically good but sometimes screw up. No, the biblical narrative, you know, like we are born in sin. That is more easily demonstrated.
Yeah. When besides no, I don't want it, or no, I don't want to, Grace's other favorite thing is that's mine as she rips it from me. You know, and I didn't teach her that,
Right.
you know, but that's we're at that stage of, you know, she's 3. We're at that
Right.
stage, and it's been fun.
Oh, I
You
bet.
know, it's been fun. So yeah, so we essentially act like sheep trying to manage the entire field. We try to manage
Yeah.
our own lives, you know. So, you know, another reflection is, where do you need to stop controlling and trusting the shepherd's lead? And where is your lack mindset driving you? That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, that, I mean, these are like kind of makes you stop and think, like, you know. So, you
Well,
know,
and I can tell you where it's going to set you right out of the garden.
yep.
You know, where we put our time, effort, energy, attention, money, whatever consumes the most of us becomes our God. Period.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
Wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart shall be.
well, and again, I'm not saying that people don't need to work. I'm not saying that earning a, you know, more than scrape by the skin of your teeth
Mhm.
wage is a bad thing. I'm not saying any of that.
Mhm.
Wanting something that does not belong to you is a problem. Um,
And it's actually one of the
what they would call the seven deadly
deadly
sins.
sins.
Being envious of others, being
That's the
jealous
word.
of others.
Yeah,
Um,
envy.
you know, there's so much of it that, I mean, you can call it ambition, but is it really?
Mm-hmm.
You know. So, you know, and we can BS ourselves all day long. Christ knows our heart.
Yeah, that lack of mindset. It you know, we tend to find ourselves in a very negative mood too. Like,
Oh
I mean, it
yeah.
affects our, we start complaining about what we don't have,
Because
and
we're focused on the negative.
yep, and we're bitter about it, and you know, I don't have this and I don't have that, and that's when we need to take a step back and re-anchor ourselves. You know, I used to be, and I've discussed this on here. I used to be a very negative person. It was always, I saw all the bad,
Mm-hmm.
all the bad, and you know, I even had a pastor at one point tell me, like, why is it every time I talk to you, you have nothing good to say? He's like, is your life really that bad? You know,
You're focused on the negative, yeah.
and I was just like, but you don't understand. Like, you don't know. He's like, no. Is your life really that bad? And I was just like, to me it is, you know.
Right.
But, and you know, at the time, it's like I wasn't getting what he was saying.
Well, and we have this stupid thing in our heads that like nobody knows what we're going through. Like nobody else has ever made stupid decisions or had a hard time before.
Right. Like, I'm the only one that's ever had this, you know, like, and it's not. There's we all struggle at some point in our lives, you know, and when you focus just on that struggle, then yeah, you're going to have that. And I had been through so much of my life at that point. Of course, I've shared my testimony on here. You know, that's all I had, was I expected the worst. Well, look, all this bad stuff that happened to me, that's just my life. That's how it's going to be.
Well,
You know?
unfortunately, that mindset, it turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And he did a lesson on actually looking at the positives and stuff, you know.
Right.
And he preached on it one Sunday, and of course I took the notes and everything, and of course the more I thought about it, I realized what he was trying to say to me.
Right.
You know, you think you have a bad life because you're not focusing on what matters.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that he said was, you know, I want to challenge you. Find one positive thing each day. Especially if something has gone bad, think about a positive thing that happened in that. You got a flat tire? but you had a spare,
Right.
you know?
I think it was Nietzsche that said, if you truly believe that somebody is ruining your life, you are correct. It's you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but we like to play the victim.
Yeah. And so, I started, and it's not easy to flip that
No, it's
switch.
not.
It is not easy. And I had to work hard at it. But I started focusing on a positive here and a positive there. And, and before I knew it, I just do it now.
Right.
I don't even realize it until, like he said with, hey, this is happening. Well, how much is it going to cost to fix it? That's
Right.
cheaper than doing this, find the positive in it. Hey, we still have a car, like we have backups that we can get fixed that won't cost as much as buying a new one.
Right.
And like he told me he had 4 jobs scheduled one day. And I was like, well, that's good. And he's like, no, I normally have like 6. And I'm like, but last week you had 2.
Right.
So I'm like, 4 is better than 2. I know it's not what you're used to, but that's better than what you had. So,
Right.
and I find myself and I even realize, like, I just do it. It comes naturally now, and even when I do have that we're really struggling moment, I still try to, and I find myself kind of, I re-anchor myself. Like I said, it's re-anchor yourself. Start focusing on, keep God in the focus.
Right.
Everything else will fall into place. One way or the other, it's gonna fall into place. And that's kind of like verse 1 is like, you got to remind yourself, the Lord is my shepherd. Therefore, I lack nothing of true value right now.
And I think it would be good to add the footnote, the Lord, for that to take root, for that to hit home. The Lord actually needs to be your Lord and your shepherd.
Absolutely.
But we have this tendency of when things go good, it's because I'm awesome, and when things go bad, it's because God hates me.
Yep.
Why God? Why me?
Right.
Well, and that's one reason why I wanted to focus on the very beginning of this, who the Lord
Oh
is.
no, I like picking stuff apart.
Yeah,
I
that's
like that word.
because if we don't acknowledge who the Lord is in this verse, then none of this is going to matter.
Well, and that what gets me about it, and I do think it ties directly to it. One of the biggest problems for non-believers is, well, how can God be all good if there's death and suffering in the world? Okay, fine. Let's pretend there is no God. Is there still death and suffering in the world? Yes. Okay, well, whose fault is it now? If you can't blame God for it, who's responsible?
And how do we know that death isn't to prevent suffering?
Well, and a lot of times we don't.
Exactly. We don't, because we're not God. We don't know.
We can't see past step 2 or 3.
We don't know, and maybe he saw a life ahead of this person that, was going to be like the most horrible thing. So he's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to bring you home early so you don't have to deal with that, and like, you're sick and you're dying, maybe it's a mercy thing,
It very well could be.
but we don't know because we're not God.
Don't, and it is hard to grasp because we want what we want, if somebody is sick and I pray for their healing, I rarely want them to die in a mercy death.
Right.
You know what I mean? Both of my grandfathers died of cancer. One of them went really quick. Like we really didn't know. He didn't explain things. I think he spent a week in the hospital and he was done.
Wow.
I have no idea how long he had it.
I think I remember that.
My other grandfather was in and out of the hospital for several years, and it finally got to a point where it's like, God, I do want him healed and made whole, but I also want the suffering to end.
Right.
So, it's not that I want him to go, but he's turning into somebody that I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like, who wants to watch somebody else go through that? You know, and it's not that I want anybody to go. That's not what I'm saying. I've heard people have that same struggle when a family member gets Alzheimer's. You know, you literally watch them become somebody that you no longer know, and they definitely don't know you. And again, it's not that anybody wants somebody to go, but
What kind of life is it?
well, and for the person with Alzheimer's, I have no idea. Like,
Right.
I have no idea what their cognition even is.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that their memory goes and all that. And it might even be that they get to a point where they're not even aware of where they're at, you know? So for me, it's not a mercy killing for them, it's mercy for us.
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure if that's fair or not, you know?
You know, with of course, you know, I was adopted by my uncle,
Right.
and anybody who wants to know more of the backstory, they can go back to where I gave my testimony and kind of gives you an idea there. He had stage 4 cancer.
Right.
I know, thank the good Lord, I was able to heal and forgive him before he passed away for what he did to me.
Right.
He was in a hospital. I remember, of course, he couldn't really talk at this point. Like, he was pretty much, you know, and I remember walking up to his bed and I grabbed his hand and he just looked at me and kind of teared up and squeezed his hand. It's like he knew. I didn't have to
Right.
say the words. He just knew, you know, and my family will probably, well, they already don't like me, so it's okay. Because, you know, I told the truth, so it's okay.
Right.
But this was probably one of the hardest working, and, you know, and I have, you know, the backstory of the abuse. But that man worked hard for his family.
Right.
Even when he was disabled, back surgery stuff, that man still worked, you
Right.
know. So seeing him like that,
Right.
I was praying that God took him because he wasn't living anymore.
Right.
The cancer had went to his brain. He was not him anymore. He had lost so much weight. He was so skinny. He wasn't eating. He wasn't, you know, it was just the chemo was killing him.
Well, and I think it is something, I know we're running short on time, but I think it is something for people, we really need to reflect on the long-term things. Now maybe I'm wrong, but I have never really heard of anybody on their deathbed, to be grateful for all the crap they bought, or the degrees on the wall, or all the people that they've slept with, or, you know, whatever it is that we spend our lives doing.
Those idols
Most
that
of
we
them
put.
want more time with family. And
You know, we put these idols,
yeah,
and that's what they are. They're idols, whether it be money or materialistic things or self, whatever. It's
Mhm.
idols that we put before God. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't think that they sit there and like, oh, I wish I would have had more money to spend on this. You know,
Right.
it's I wish I had more time with family. I want my family here. I want this here. You know, you know, but I really think he was ready to go. And I mean, I did. I prayed that, and I was like, you know, it's your will, Lord. It's not mine. But he's
Well,
not living.
And to me, it ties in. A schoolmate of ours passed, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And I remember the social media post, oh, he was great, this and that, book, which I'm not saying that anybody was wrong about that. But after about, I don't know, 100 of those, like, which one of y'all told him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because that's where I'm at with it, is saying how great a person was or what they meant to you after the fact.
Where were you when they were alive?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you don't tell them they're amazing when they're alive, keep their mouth shut after they go.
Yep.
You know, because it's all you're doing is making yourself feel better now.
Yep.
You know, they went without that knowledge. You know,
Making yourself look good to everybody else.
Because
well, I don't think a lot of people are malicious, you know, intentionally malicious about it.
we get focused on self.
Right.
Our wants, our desires, our, you know, me, and we don't, you know, and
Right.
I mean, you know that we had somebody I went to school with who I was really close to. and we talked all the time, and then all of a sudden,
Right.
nothing. And, and I was like, oh, he's just busy with his kids. It's this, but I never took that
Right.
step to reach out either after that. But I was just like, oh, and I did a couple of times, but I didn't get nothing back. And I'm like, oh, and then I find out, several days later that he'd passed. And I'm
Right.
just like, and you get that thought, well, these last
Well,
two,
what a butthole. He didn't call and tell me.
and I really did. I was like, he didn't even tell me he was in the hospital. And I kind of got mad about it at
Right.
first. I did. I was like, I'm mad at him. Why didn't he tell me? Because we were close. Why am I finding out this way? Like, he
Right.
should have told me. He'd been in hospice for a while. Like, he'd been in the hospital for a while. Like,
Right.
for at least a week that I know of. I'm like, why? Why was I not told? But then I was just like, you know what? He was focused on his kids.
Right.
Somebody had to take care of his kids. Somebody had to take care of his sister who could, he helped take care of.
There were
Now-
bigger things on his plate.
Exactly. But in the moment, I was like, I was mad at him. And you can ask him, I was like, why? Why did he not tell me? Because I cared,
Right.
but at the same time, but it goes back to, it wasn't about me. It's about what he needed for his family.
Right.
And that was his focus. And, but I kind of was like, these last 2 months, I could have worked harder
Right.
to reach out to him and stuff. It might not have made a difference. He may have been so sick he couldn't responded, that might have been the issue. He was in and out of the hospital a
Well,
lot, but
But I do think that gives us something to think about. Because when somebody passes, we always look at, well, I could have done this or I could have done that or whatever. Do it now.
yeah,
You know.
exactly. And that's why I was sharing that because, and I told him, I was like, I should have reached out sooner.
Right.
I should have, he didn't reach back to me and I let it go. And I should have just kept messaging until,
Right.
I should have let him know that, I was still there and I still cared,
Right.
and, you think about that, hindsight's 2020, they say, but yeah, that kind of went with that. That's why I shared that,
Right.
and,
Right.
I struggled with that for a little bit with myself, but again, that goes back, you've got to forgive
Well, we all,
yourself.
right.
And I'm trying, like, I've got another friend who is fighting cancer and she has decided to quit treatment. And she's like, well, everybody quit talking to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to you in a minute,
Right.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to avoid you or not talk to you. I've got to get better at that. That's a me thing. I've got to get better at that. And, we are so focused and consumed on our lives that we tend to forget other people around us
do.
sometimes. And,
We do. We're so worried about living our best life, but again, I've never heard of anybody on the deathbed. Like, well, I'm so thankful that, I did this rather than that or whatever.
mhm,
Now, don't get me wrong. Like my grandmother is getting close. She's been waiting on him for a little while now. And, she will say, like that she's thankful that like they took more vacations in their younger years rather than, they're like, once you retire, you've only got so many years where you
mhm.
feel like even doing certain things.
But that still goes back to spending time with family.
Well, and that's what she was saying is, like she was glad she has those memories and experiences
Mhm.
with my grandfather and whatnot, that they were able to do those things. And that's how she describes it. It's not, well, we got to go to this place and see that. It's always a they, them,
Mhm.
you know.
And that's something that he and I have been discussing the last couple of years. Like, it's been a minute since we've had a vacation. It's not that I want to, I just want to do stuff with the kids. I want
Right.
to, have them experience life some. Grace is getting older now. She's 3.
Right.
She's getting old enough that she can start remembering things. And I want her to have those memories too.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not about having to go somewhere. I mean, it's more about the memories and the spending time together
Right.
and not stressing about everyday life and, just being able to go and be
Unplug
and
and recharge.
enjoy life and enjoy our, us as a family.
Right.
And, every time we start trying to plan, things happen, but, so, that's why we were discussing with you, hey,
Right.
maybe this is an option for next year,
Right.
we can get caught up on some things and start saving some money and, You know, you wanted to join us, and
Right.
you know, but yeah, I don't know. It just, I think this whole thing, just breaking it down like this, I've never broken down like this before, and it just makes you kind of stop and think, and you know, where do we put our value, and are we trying to be God, and or is it, you know?
Yes.
Yes, I know that. Yes,
You know,
we're trying to do His job, and we need to step back, and we need to, you know, focus
entirely too often.
on Him, and stop thinking about all the worldly desires that we have, and you know, hey, what I have is enough. What I have is enough. I mean, I think we all would like more, but we need to be happy with what we've got.
That honestly is the secret from a Christian standpoint, is contentedness, joy. It's not that everything is amazing. It's that we realize that we honestly could have it worse. I can't remember which book of the Bible. I want to say it was Romans, but Paul's hanging in a Roman sewer and he says, rejoice. Most of us are not hanging in a sewer.
Mhm.
And if he can say rejoice and we're always complaining, we have a perspective problem and a perception problem. You know, my understanding is that when Paul was finally beheaded, he was mostly crippled. I mean, he went through what, 2, 3 shipwrecks. I don't know how many stonings,
Mhm.
beatings. And he said, rejoice.
Mhm.
You know, he didn't say, well, you know, I ran my race, but I tripped and fell about 1,000 times and I would have liked it better. You know, if I had more stuff
Mhm.
or, you know, maybe had eaten steak every night rather than trail food, you know. I don't know if there's really a spot in there where you can really catch Paul complaining.
Mm-mm.
You know, now I know there's a few individual spots where, you know, like he talked about, was it the thorn in his side or whatever?
Yeah.
But it's only a brief instance, you know, like there's no chapter based on his thorn.
Well, I mean, even Jesus was like, Father, if you can let this cup pass from me, you know, even he was.
Yeah, he knew what was coming. He's like, boy, I really don't want to do this.
Exactly. You know, so I think we all have those moments, and that's okay. We just got to make
Change our
sure.
focus.
Yes. And you know, like the when the apostles that were in jail and they were singing,
Mhm.
and when the angels came and opened the, was that the same story? The angels came and opened the gates. There was a loud shake or something, and the
I
gates
think it's an
opened,
Acts, yeah.
and you know, they escaped, and no one knew where they went.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And they showed up at the house, and they're knocking on the door, and they're like, it's their ghost, you know.
Right. But you know, what was another one where it was either Peter or Paul was locked up and he had the chance to get out and stayed and ministered to his jailer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, look, Joseph. Look at Joseph.
Yeah. He had every right to be angry and bitter.
Mm-hmm. Like he was locked, he was sold into slavery by his brothers, then he was locked up for something he didn't do.
Mhm.
And then he could, you know, interpret the dreams, and then he's like, hey, don't forget about me. And what would happen?
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah. And like, again, I'm focused on me. I'm free. You don't
Right.
matter no more, kind of thing, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And it's not that he didn't matter. It was more of, hey, I'm free. I'm going to focus on my life now, you know? And that's what we tend to do.
We do. I do think we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got anything you want to add? We've kind of just ignored you.
That's okay.
I can put you on the spot. What do you think about it?
Yes.
Unless it's a no, and then no, right?
Next week it says we should go to verse 2, but we got some verses that we will share, and then we'll go to verse 2. That kind of
Tied into this,
tie
yeah.
into it.
As it should.
Ezekiel and a couple others that we'll share that I have actually that I can bring up, but we'll do that next week.
I had the idea, hey, why don't we type out the verses that we're going over, and you can pull it up on the screen, so if, you know, somebody's there and they don't have the Bible or whatever, they can see it. And so he actually did that tonight. And then, you know, I didn't allow him to do it. Look at me, just taking over. And
Stop playing God.
I know, like, he could have stopped me though and interrupted me anytime.
I was enjoying her doing it tonight. I was just sitting here chilling, dealing with son I don't know. He's having hot flashes. He
Are you
said,
pregnant?
that's what I asked.
He's like, I'm feeling nauseous. I feel like I'm like after I throw up. I feel like that's what he said. He said like I feel like I do right after I throw up, but like I still feel like I've got to throw up. And he's like morning sickness. He goes, it's not morning. Oh, and I'm not pregnant. I was like, well, make sure we had that one in there.
Right.
He's like, now I'm freezing, and I'm like,
Are you sure you're not pregnant?
like,
He's on the couch covered in a blanket. So which is it?
well,
Right.
he's probably sitting where it got cooler outside, so it's cooler in the house, and that AC is probably blowing straight on him because we've got a window unit. It's like right there, and it blows straight on the couch. So it gets cold in there sometimes. Like they should be thankful that it's cold in there and not hot like it
Has
has
he got
been.
sunburn?
No, not able. Not able.
No.
No. He's got to be outside more than 5 minutes.
Right.
I love my son. Bless his heart.
Mm.
He really doesn't care, does he? Like, hey, when we were your age, we had dirt and we was thankful to have it.
Yes.
I made some dang good mud pies.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
The
I
dark-
even made birthday cakes and had the little sticks on top. And
The darker the mud, the better it tasted.
I'm
Right.
just saying, I don't know that I ever ate them.
Oh, you weren't supposed to eat it?
No,
Oh.
I made them, but we didn't eat it.
Watch for peanuts
Yeah.
or corn.
The kid from the rabbit cage.
Right.
And that yellow snow, too. Come on now. Or the brown snow.
Purple. We had purple snow. We don't know what that was. Dad never told us what it was.
Purple snow?
Yeah. It's under the diesel.
Oh, well, then, yeah. Yeah, that would be probably, fluid dripping from.
No. It didn't leak.
Did he just comment?
Gates phone's going straight to voicemail again. Freaking iPhone.
Now I feel cold, but I'm still burning up.
Okay. We got any more we're going to add to that?
No, but I do have a graphic I will share with everybody.
Is it graphic?
Could be. She made it. If it is, it's her fault. I love my wife.
It's going to be at the end. It's basically thank you for joining us, and follow, like, share,
Read your Bible.
read your Bible. That's
Bible.
the biggest thing.
Oh, I do want to put and they're not paying me to say this. They don't want me to say this, but we have discovered a new app. It's a Bible app called Creed. It's kind of
It's actually pretty cool.
cool. It's a lamb. Is it a lamb?
It's a sheep.
A sheep.
Imagine that, right?
Weird.
How convenient.
Mine's named Lamb Chops.
It tells you to name your sheep. Of course, me being me, I named it Daddy.
Right.
Why, I don't know, but I did. Just,
There's a free version and there's a paid version.
Yeah.
And with the paid version, of course, you get
She
more.
actually
but
talks to you when you're talking like we are right now.
Right.
You can set the voice for it too, and
Hers is British. No, that was your Google.
that was my Google.
Her Google's
But
British.
there's like little tasks that you can do. It helps you stay with the Bible. There's like a prayer journal. There's a daily journal. There's
So neat stuff to check out.
yes, a lot of cool stuff. And you actually, when you do it, you get coins, and you use that coins to upgrade your sheep in new clothing and Bibles. He carries a Bible, and like it's pretty cool. It's
I
pretty
don't
neat.
know about that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. We've got the free version, of course, but
Right.
and it's actually, even for the yearly, it's not that
It's only
expensive.
$60 a year.
Yeah.
70,
Yeah.
60.
It's
70.
cheaper to do the yearly than it is, and you get a week free when you do the yearly.
Right.
Otherwise, I think it was like $10 a month, something like that. But yeah, it's not a promotional thing. It's just something that we found that
Right.
we think's pretty neat, and you can do a reminder. And actually, on my phone, I got it set up where I get the daily Bible verse on it too. I don't know if you can see that, but it pops up on my home screen.
Right. Right.
Huh.
And every day it shows up. Well, now it's off, but yeah, there we go. I hit a button. But yeah. A little daily verse that pops up, and yeah. That's Lamb Chop.
Right.
Yeah. It's pretty
So
neat.
yeah, we'll definitely see y'all next week.
All right.
Y'all pray for us, and we'll pray for y'all. I'm definitely gonna say this out loud. I've been praying about my job situation.
So prayers for guidance.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't want to say
absolutely.
anything out loud right now.
No.
Just
just guidance.
guidance that we get busier, because evidently it's not just our dealership, it's a couple in the same strip that we work on, the Ford
Right.
dealership, the Chevy dealership. It wouldn't be for a bunch of recalls right now, we'd be slow.
Right.
Thank God for recalls, literally.
Well, on
And
that
I hate that, but
you know,
even though they're 0.3s and 0.4s and 0.5s, but
at the
It adds
same
up.
time, they don't build product like they used to.
no,
And the downside of the dealer network is once it's out of warranty, when you look at the cost of a payment and the insurance, a lot of people, like, they're not going to be bringing it back to the dealership for repairs. They can't, unless it's a dealer only thing. Can't afford it. It's twice the
No.
labor rate.
yes,
Um,
Mhm.
my personal feelings, again, if manufacturers built things that lasted like they used to, and don't get me wrong, your average 60s vehicle was not getting 300,000 miles,
no,
but it did last for 20 years.
yes.
Heck, we had a Neon that had 300,000 miles on it.
323 when we traded her in.
Yep, and
Well,
she was still kicking.
Which is honestly a surprise given the platform.
Yeah.
But no,
Definitely.
but no, we will pray for guidance in that situation.
And if any of y'all need prayer requests, don't hesitate reaching out. Put it on the comment thread. Reach out to us.
It's helpful if you give us as much information as you are willing to share.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that we will disclose that information.
No.
I firmly believe that prayer works better if you have more information to work with. I'm not a big fan of those generic prayer requests. God knows why. I'm like, okay, well, they asked for prayers to God.
There you
They
go.
are, and I don't know much else to
Yeah.
do with it at that point.
And also, if you're on the YouTube channel, you can comment on the YouTube channel. We will get the notification.
And if you're on Facebook, and you don't want to put it out there, put it, private message us.
Yes.
We're all on there.
Yes. Chris is not, but we'll notify him.
And
Dunk.
I guess we need to start putting like an email address up there. Just
Yeah.
Probably would.
Table Talk. What is it?
Well, do you want to do Table Talk or the other one?
What other one?
Mine, the blessings.
Let's do that one. I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. My brain just stopped. This is what I thought. Okay. Of course, I'm commenting as you for some reason.
I think because you're signed in.
I think I might be signed in.
Well, it
on
actually
something.
popped up under the both of you.
Did it? Because it's just showing Kenneth on my side.
Nah, it came up as Kenneth and the missus. Or the.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that. I may just put Mrs. and take the
Because
off.
you logged in on me on there.
Right.
That's okay. All right. Well, here's a graphic, and we will see y'all next week.
Take care.